Hi, Randy Crabtree here. It's day 3 of Bridging the Gap Conference. We're in Rosemont, Illinois, having a terrific time, having lots of fun. It's the night after the big gala event and award show, and still having a lot of fun. People, I think, have recovered from that last night, but super excited to be sitting here today speaking with Kenji Kuramoto. Kenji, welcome.
Thank you, Randy, for
welcome
having
to the whatever this is.
Welcome to day 3. Welcome to
Between Two Signs.
Between Two Signs. This is the day that everyone's supposed to be kind of bleary-eyed and tired. And guess what? People aren't. People are up and at it. People are in sessions right now.
Did you actually sleep at all last night?
A little bit. I mean, for me, yeah, a little bit, a few hours.
All right. Because I have this impression, I never have noticed it, I've seen it myself because I can't stay up this late, but I have this impression that you hang out with some people that go out for a while at the end of the night.
That is true, but when you come to a conference like this, right, you see great friends, you meet new people, and hey, we can sleep later. You want to get out and spend some time with them. So yes, I am very susceptible to that thing called FOMO. I think it used to be called peer pressure when I was a kid.
Yes.
But yes, I will tend to stay out a little late, and I was probably one of the ones in the hotel lobby last night that just didn't want to leave good conversations with a bunch of other good folks here.
Nice.
So hey,
well,
that's all it is.
And that's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
And I talked about that at the beginning of this conference, that yes, these sessions that we're sitting in are great, and the speakers are great, and the information you're going to get is great. Yeah. But you're going to learn as much and even more when you're out in the hall or in the bar or in the gala event and meeting people and talking to them and sharing knowledge and collaborating. So I appreciate that you said that.
For sure.
Little more, I'm just curious, this specific conference, in the last 2.5 days, you just did give us some impression on it, but what's your thoughts? What's happening out there?
This is great. I've been to, I guess, all of these. I mean, I guess this is technically the second year. It's kind of the third-ish year.
Kind of, sort of.
So I've been to all of them, and a big believer of Bridging the Gap conference, because I think there's some things here that happen that don't happen at other conferences. The size feels about just right. I mean, you meet new people, but it's still intimate enough to where you conversations like we talked about happen very easily. Yep. There's an intentionality built around, we do our meals and things together. Mm-hmm. And so I think we kind of keep people in the same space. That also kind of is a nice way, I think, to get people to feel welcome and more connected. Yep. And then I think the topics are a bit unique. I think that most of us who come to these, whether accountants, we're working on our technical skills, or whether we're firm owners or leaders, we're working on leadership skills. And all those things happen here. There's content for all of that, which is great, so you can check those boxes. But I think I'm seeing more of a trend these days of people want to figure out how to operate accounting firms. And one aspect of it that we don't really get into, lots of times it's around structure and what are you doing for workflow, and we don't really get into the side. There's a little bit tougher side of people, and I mean people not just in recruiting. I think people, the way that we're all emotionally wired. Work is hard. The accounting profession can be really challenging. And I think at this conference, what is unique is there's so many speakers who want to get up and share experience about their, not just their life in accounting, as a professional, but also what their mental health journey has been through accounting. And I don't think there's a single person here that hasn't been touched in some way, whether it's themselves, a team member, a family member in that. And so that conversation happens a lot more freely. I think that you just tend to see some deeper connections and conversations happening, because that's just a thread that I don't think anyone has pulled through a conference yet of let's talk about the mental well-being of all this. Because guess what? You may be the most talented accountant out there. One of the best leaders out there. If you don't have the mental health aspect covered, it doesn't matter. And the rest of that's not going to matter. So I think that's a really unique aspect of that discussion is being had, and the open people are being vulnerable. And it's just cool to see that what kind of conversations get sparked around that. Those are some unique things about Bridging the Gap. And also, hey, it's here in Chicago, and I love Chicago.
Go Cubs.
Go Cubs, go! And it's a great place to come to, especially in the summertime here. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everything you just said there, and I was smiling the entire time because everything you hit on are key things that whatever. I mean, that when this thing popped into my head about 4 years ago or so, that I wanted to do with this conference, and all I do is have them pop into my head, and then marketing.
Yeah.
Our team is awesome, and
Yeah.
they
You
make
got a
it
great
reality.
team. Great team.
So I probably put a lot of stress on them with my ideas, but
Well, these are not easy. Putting together a conference and,
Right.
being intentional of creating a community in an event is hard.
Oh,
It is tough.
It is tough.
So we are all, as participants in it, and I think we're all very appreciative of the fact that you'll go through this effort and work. It's not lost on us, like, to put this together. That's an endeavor.
It is an endeavor, and I just want to say one more thing of what you said there is that these conversations don't happen at conferences. I mean, in my mind, this is the only one I know of where we have these kind of conversations. And you and I were talking before we went on here. There's someone here that I see at these other bigger firm conferences. I'm just going to call them bigger firm conferences, that's where I see him.
Right.
And this is a bigger firm conference. You're a big firm.
Working on it.
But he was sitting in our last session, which was a session where 3 of us up there were being interviewed on mental health issues, not issues, but mental health journeys that we've all had, and how we have used those to get to a point now where and not everybody's at a point where they're completely comfortable.
Right.
I am fortunately, and people might think I am, but I am. I love everything. I love everybody.
Yeah.
I have fun, except this conference stresses me out. That's the only thing, which is ironic.
That's fair.
That's ironic that I do have a conference to try to help support everybody's mental health, and it hurts mine. So there's something weird going on there. We're gonna have to
We'll
fix that up.
We'll figure out a new session that we need to do every
But
year
once
for
it
you.
starts, for the most part, I'm good. But he was saying this. He sat in our session. And he goes, and he's at conferences all the time, and he's a great speaker.
Yeah.
And he says that was the greatest session I've ever seen at an accounting conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, we need to try to get this out elsewhere.
Right.
So, all right. Absolutely. Well, we went on about the conference, and I appreciate you raving on it and all this, but let's talk specifically about, you had 2 sessions here.
I did, 2 sessions.
And I want to talk about, and I'll get the title wrong, but the gist of it was, how 2 partners survive together without killing each other.
That's right. So far, we even talked about the lead up to this conference. People kept saying, "Oh, it's going to be an interesting topic, how 2 partners have managed not to kill each other." And I said, "Well, remember, we're not all the way there yet. There's still time. I may have to revise. One of us may have to revise the statement, but it's a discussion that has come to us a few times as partners. Partnering is really challenging, whether you're an accountant or whatever business you might be in. Matthew and I have had a very successful partnership. It's unique to us, and we get people who ask us about, like, well, how did you do this, or how did you navigate that? And so we felt like, let's talk about that. Actually, he and I have never, ever before shared the stage together like that at an external conference. We do that stuff internally. We've never, the 2 of us, kind of talked about it. And in our true style of being very, very vulnerable and transparent, and this conference is really good about making you feel at ease with that, we got up and had a little fun with it. Yeah, it was fun. We got up and, we may have cracked some adult beverages up on the stage. We got a little bit silly. We went very quickly into some stories that probably most people had not heard, that were a little weird and out there, that kind of demonstrated how what made our partnership work. And then we made it a conversation with the crowd. We're like, all right, who else? Throw things out there, anything you want to talk about. So, and I find that the partnership conversation is kind of an endless one. And I don't mean the partnership in terms of like the traditional accounting firm partnerships. Like how do you as people or your team come together to own something, to build something together? And that's a tricky dynamic. That's something I was never taught in my accounting classes.
No, you're not.
You're right. You're never taught that. You're never, you don't see it. In fact, that traditional model of partnership is starting to really change in the profession. We're seeing that happen really rapidly. So people like us, our firm, and others are kind of trying to figure out, what does this mean? Like, what does the structure of an accounting firm look like these days? And so we definitely did ours with a little bit of fun and some silly stories and some kind of funny images up on the screen, but we thought it'd be a fun just conversation to have. And I think we elicited some laughs and some good discussion with others. So
I got to sit in for a few minutes.
It was
and
fun.
It was definitely good and entertaining. Was there any, from the questions you got, any key things that you were like, oh wow, that was a great question, or I love that, or I would never thought about that? Did you learn something from the audience?
What did we learn from the audience? I think I think one thing that we've learned is, first of all partnerships are very different. They're unique.
Yes.
And so we wanted to be very clear on what worked for us does not mean it has to work for everybody else. Everybody has a little bit of a different one, different reasons there. But what we talked about, I think, was really trying to make sure that we had really good alignment as partners. Like alignment was key. Like how do we stay super aligned?
Right.
And I think one of the stories we shared on that was just the fact that Matthew and I have all these very, really unintended alignments of just in our life. Like,
Yes.
and we're like, that's so weird. But then also we're like, hey, let's build on that and also be intentional. Let's build some alignment in. And so that was kind of fun and interesting. I think that was one that resonated. And then also, one thing I know that I talked to someone, they were in the presentation we talked to before as well too. She was very surprised when she said, well, like what happens? Like, do you guys ever, like, if you guys do have a disagreement or do you ever fight? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the person I fight with the most, with the hardest with. So I think she was a little surprised, and it kind of reminded me too of like, oh, we really get into it. Like, right, we really get into it, and not in a mean-spirited way, but in a very raw, authentic. We don't hold back our emotions with each other because we actually feel so safe with each other. Like we can say whatever we want to say to each other.
Right.
And so I think I was kind of surprised. I think she was surprised asking us, like, wait, I thought you were going to give us strategies for how you don't fight. No, we do. We absolutely do. And there can be a healthy way to do that.
And I think that's even more important to show that
absolutely
everything's not in agreement and perfect, but you can work through it and you can survive as partners still after all these years, which is amazing.
So yeah, that may have been a little bit of surprising reveal of like where, oh no, it's, you can have some healthy disagreement, and you really can. And in fact, bottling that stuff up and keeping it in, ooh, that's bad. Bad things happen when you do that. So getting that stuff out, getting through it, which sometimes looks a little bit like you're fighting it out, you know. And then, which is why we use some funny analogies from the movie Step Brothers and things like this.
I saw that. So the cool thing though is people may think everything's perfect all the time because you guys seem like you get along so well, and you do. So the fact that you're able to say that, no, it's not always that way, I think that's important because everybody else thinks, oh, I'm the only one that has disagreements with my partner.
Right.
But we still remain partners and friends, which is great.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to pivot here. We have a minute or so left, but one of the huge impacts of this conference that I think affected a lot of us was last night we awarded the Josh Lance Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah.
Josh, and for anybody that hasn't listened, Josh is a friend of ours, a friend of the community, very impactful to many of us, and passed away last October. And we did Scott Scarano did a video, very well done, and Nico, who's off camera here, is the one who edited it and put the pictures together for it, and it was an amazing video. But I think as amazing as all that, which was awesome, Scott was awesome, was you were on it. Words that you said at Josh's memorial, and I've said this to you before, and I'll tell everybody, and I'll keep shouting it to them, they have to go listen to your speech at that memorial because it was the greatest speech I've ever heard and really embodied who Josh was. And you were able to show us that in that 5 minutes or whatever time it was. And one of the biggest things that I got out of what you said was the whole thing about influence versus fame versus, and can you explain what Josh had, or the difference between influence and what? I'm getting it wrong. You tell me.
You did well with that. Where that came about, and it was such a. I was very nervous when Josh's family reached out to me, but what they realized. They started realizing was how much Josh meant to all of us in the accounting community. Yeah. And it was a little surprising because Josh is such a quiet, humble person. They didn't really know, and his wife Lisa and I were even talking last night, still chuckling about like this man who had this whole like really deep community. And so they started talking about, was Josh accounting famous? He's a famous, and his kids were kind of going, Dad, I was famous. And I wanted to and so that kind of sparked some ideas with me, and I kept thinking about the word fame. Yeah. And I thought, that's right, he was accounting famous, But when we really looked at it, and I really thought about who Josh was to all of us, really realized there's a difference between fame and influence. And I think that's what typified Josh. Fame really is kind of attention seeking for oneself.
Right.
Like how famous can I get?
He did not
right?
do that.
And he was the opposite.
Right.
If Josh ever got a spotlight, only times I ever saw it, how he used a spotlight was he had something important to say that needed to be said, or he was advocating for somebody else. And that's what influence looks like. And I think that's where it was, in thinking about this funny kind of way that, yes, he was accounting famous, really when we dug a little deeper, like, oh, he was such a man of influence.
Yes.
Because then you're drawn to him. Like, you're just this quiet, soft-spoken, kind soul. Everyone's drawn to him because that's what you got with Josh. When he spoke, he had something important to say, or he was standing up and advocating for someone else. And so I think I love that what Scotty did in a video and with the music to kind of memorialize and keep that going. You've got a platform built here. Now we've got an award that we give out to kind of keep that memory alive. And there are people who never knew Josh who are understanding what he was to us. And yeah, the way that Scott took the words from the eulogy, it was a really kind of a beautiful moment. It was a beautiful moment. I was sad. I cried. This happens sometimes at Bridging the Gap.
Yes.
You get it's
I
heartfelt.
was bawling my eyes out.
It's
on stage.
heartfelt. My business partner came up to me and he said, and he hadn't heard it, and he said, I wish you would have told me you were playing that, because he was bawling. But there was a lot of joy in that. Lots and lots of joy in that remembrance. And so, yeah, that's another just super unique thing about this conference and this place, that we're holding up people like Josh, who can continue to be impactful for future generations in the profession, even though many have not known him. And he'd be the last person to go out and seek this. Last night I told Lisa, his wife, I said, what's so funny about this is Josh would hate the fact there's a Josh Lance Lifetime Achievement. He would hate it. He wouldn't want his name on it. He wouldn't want that. He does not want the attention.
Right.
And that's a little bit funny for us who were friends and know him to kind of know, like, oh, he would have hated that. But it's fun for us, all of his friends and family, to say, too bad, we're going to hold it up there and we're going to celebrate you in this way.
And it's about what he stood for.
Right.
And how could we not put his name on that? So,
how could we not?
All right. Well, Kenji, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate you sitting down, and I can't wait till the next time we get to do something like this.
I can't wait either.